in regard to how much time he gives to text. And so you have that pressure and you're quite aware of it. And yet on the other hand, anybody who's ever been hired to work in a church knows the pressure of relevance and that he better have something to say for today. And if you don't have something to say for today, you're not going to be in this ministry very long. And so these things, as we've grown up over the last 25 years in the States anyway, have always been put at polar opposites, as if you have to choose between one and the other. And today, this morning, I just want to flat out reject the notion that you're either going to be a text guy or a contextually today guy. I want to reject the notion that has placed these things in contrast to one another. In actual fact, they go together, and we need a new conversation for the next 20 years as we look at this. I'm dispirited when people begin to think that you have to choose between being a word person or a spirit person. It's disheartening to me to think of how many people are going into ministry today wondering about whether they have to give themselves to spiritual conversions or street cred, as if both of these aren't in play. It's difficult when people talk about, oh, I want to spend all my time in biblical research, and someone else across the block says, yeah, but when you do that, you're completely void of any relevance. I don't want to be in places, and the Simeon Trust does not want to be in places where you merely explain the text and we're not applying it to life, as if we're text people and not transformational people, as if we're merely here to speak to the head of people and the heart is left behind, as if all we're really concerned about is orthodoxy, whereas the guy, maybe many in here are saying, wow, I can't even believe I'm at a preaching workshop because my fear this week is that somehow this is going to throw me away from orthopraxis. This guy over here says, wow, I like the preaching workshop because we just do exegesis. And yet there are others in our midst that says, man, I hope they do something that's got some existential manna. These are the pressures that every person pulled into ministry feels week by week by week. And what I want to tell you this morning as we get underway with the first principle is a lesson that actually will bring these two things together. It is not one or the other. You are not a text guy or a today guy. You are going to be both. But I am going to say that you're going to take these ancient texts and in your conviction of soul, believe that when put forward in the power of the Spirit and rightly handled, they do apply to today. And that your relevancy, your competency will actually in some manner be connected to your ability with biblical text. So in one sense, I want to say that there's an order that we're going to be arguing for. Let me just do this drawing here. As you prepare and handle these pressures, you're going to put your eyeball up to the text of Scripture. And through that, you're going to begin to see its own biblical context. And on account of that, you will have something meaningful to say to today. What happens if you hold a telescope wrong way round? That's right, it's reduced, it's actually reductionistic. If you begin with the wrong end of that, you actually get less than you really wanted. Although you were committed to beginning there because you knew you had to be in today. So it's reductionistic by nature. What else? What else happens? You actually, you reduce the breadth of what is supposed to be there. You actually have fewer things to do, and I don't know about you, I've done this a little bit, it actually almost gets foggy. You're not quite sure what the whole force of the horizon looks like. Yet when you hold it right way round, what happens? The whole thing is clear, it's in proportion, it actually resembles reality, it actually is reality that I'm looking at and I'm speaking into or looking into. And that's what we're arguing for all week, is the mental discipline to take these pressures that are going like this for you. I got to be a text guy or a today guy. And to pull these things in like that and align them properly so that as you begin to reorient yourself in your word work, there's a way in which you're doing it. You are not governed by today. Today will be powerfully amplified in your preaching if you go from the text to the context. Then you'll actually be more relevant in regard to what you might have to say today. Now there's two kinds of context. I'm going to talk the next 50 minutes on this end here, this biblical context. When I think of context, there's two elements of it. There's a historical context and there's a literary context. And so one of the things that, by way of instruction or principle to those of us who are trying to preach the Bible, we can never preach well without giving ourselves in some measure to the historical